Welcome to Let's Talk, where Spokane Talks hosts seek out and discuss the latest on a variety of interesting topics to Spokane and North Idaho. Here's today's host, Colin Pittman.
I'm your host, Colin Pittman. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Congresswoman Kathy McMorris-Rogers from the 5th Legislative District. Congresswoman, let's talk. So I kind of want to dive right into things here. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about agriculture. And I know that is a discussion with a lot of controversy right now in Eastern Washington. Crop growers all across the region, really the backbone of our regional economy, they're very concerned. And, net farm income is down a whopping 52%. Farm bankruptcies are up 39%. And several land-grant universities actually recently did a study that showed 2/3 of American farmers are in great financial danger. So many local farmers, obviously, they're very concerned about this and glad that the president is making trade negotiations that they're hoping he will make the best possible on their behalf. But meanwhile, commodity prices are getting lower, and it's a major hit on their operations. So how do you address these concerns, and what is Congress doing to help the farm industry?
Right. Well, as you said, agriculture is the backbone of our economy. It's the number one industry in Eastern Washington, number one industry in Washington State. I was born and raised on the farm. My family owned an orchard and fruit stand for 13 years in Kettle Falls. Was involved in 4-H, helped pay for college. I bring that perspective to Congress now, and I am very concerned about what's facing our farmers right now. And it's important that they are successful, that they're competitive, and that they have the certainty that as they're growing different crops, that they're going to be able to sell them and get a good price. Right. There's trade is on the forefront of their minds right now. I have voiced concerns and made very clear that I share their concern about the across-the-board tariffs and leading to a trade war. I would much rather see a more targeted approach. And I have talked with President Trump as well as others in the administration just this last week again about the importance of moving forward on bilateral trade agreements. Let's get negotiations done, and let's start getting some certainty in place so that our farmers who want to sell and have worked for years, decades at times to develop these markets can do so. We export 90% of the wheat, 70% of the potatoes, 50% of the apples that are grown here in Washington State. So those markets are very important. I'm also really encouraged. We've moved forward in Congress on the Farm Bill. The Senate has passed a Farm Bill. We are going to conference committee right now. And that is a very important legislation in giving our farmers some confidence and some certainty moving forward. And for me, within the Farm Bill, the market access program, that's what's used to fund opening up new markets for selling our goods. That's a big priority. Crop insurance for our farmers, as well as continued research.
Right. And, a perfect example of this, I actually contacted a wheat grower in Walla Walla just last week, and he told me that he made a phone call to sell his peas. And the production company told him that there was no market right now because India's tariffs on pulse crops resulting from President Trump's tariffs on their products.
Yes.
So obviously that's a huge blow to his operation, not being able to market their crops. So how are farmers going to be protected while these trade negotiations are still being dealt with?
Right. This is real, and it's impacting farmers right now. Just before the 4th of July, I had invited, and Secretary Sonny Perdue was here in Eastern Washington hearing these very stories firsthand from the farmers of Eastern Washington. We did a town hall in Colfax. We did a roundtable here in Spokane. And then we went to Washington State University and we toured some of the research facilities at WSU so that the Secretary of Agriculture could see what's happening here in Eastern Washington firsthand. He said if there isn't something in place very soon, he is preparing to move forward with some mitigation to help our farmers by Labor Day. He's impressing upon the president that this is having a very real impact. As I've told the president, you need to lead with agriculture and with farmers in mind when it comes to these trade negotiations. And you think about a country like India. India has a huge market, obviously, the largest and fastest growing democracy in the world. And there is a huge opportunity for us. We should get a trade agreement in place with India that would provide that certainty and allow us in those negotiations to address some of these concerns that have been raised.
And, obviously you mentioned Sonny Perdue visiting here in Eastern Washington, and I know many farmers were pleased that they could share information with him to pass along to the administration, but they really are concerned. And so I'm glad that you mentioned the backup plan, if you will, by Labor Day. And that's really important, especially now as we are approaching the harvest season here in Eastern Washington for wheat and so many other crops. So that Labor Day deadline, I'm glad to hear that. And I know many of them would be too. The recently passed Farm Bill is also making changes to the SNAP program. And some of those changes have been pretty controversial. So why do you support these changes?
Well, I think it's important first for people to recognize that we're not cutting the SNAP program. What the House proposed and what I supported were some reforms to the SNAP program. The Supplemental Nutrition program is within the Farm Bill, and this is the food stamps. So the Farm Bill includes both support to agriculture and farmers as well as the food stamps, which is helping those that need nutrition and food. What I've supported in these reforms is that for the able-bodied adults that are on food stamps, the 18 to 59-year-olds, that we would restore some of the work requirements, not for those with disabilities, not for parents who have young kids or for seniors, but for the 18 to 59-year-olds, that they would either have to work 20 hours a week or be in school, getting an education 20 hours a week in order to get the food stamps. And the goal here is to bring some of these people who have fallen out of the workforce and given up on finding a job back in and get them some education, some training, so that they have a job, because a job is so important in your life. And right now, our unemployment is at a 50-year low. Okay, we have record low unemployment for blacks, for Hispanics, across the board. Employers need employees, so this is an ideal time for those who had fallen out of the workforce to get back into the workforce. And so I think that this is an important reform and one that's going to have a really positive impact on.
And so the category that you are talking about, these are able-bodied Americans, you said. So these are people that are able to work, they can go out and work, whereas some of the other categories, as you were talking about, such as those with disabilities and seniors, they may have constraints that where they're not able to do so. So the category you're talking about is able-bodied Americans.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Congresswoman. I'm glad that I could sit down and talk with you about agriculture issues. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Great job.
We'll see you next time on Let's Talk.